Paris, the city Hitler once called the Jewel of Europe, a city he believed he would rule forever. But on August 25, 1944, the jewel slipped from his hands. The Allies were marching through the streets. French resistance fighters were cheering on rooftops. German troops were surrendering one district after another. And deep inside his bunker in East Prussia, Adolf Hitler received the news he had sworn would never come. Paris was liberated. This episode tells the story of that moment, what Hitler said behind closed doors, what his generals heard in those tense minutes, and how the fall of Paris shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility. This is the inside account of the day Hitler learned Paris was lost and what he ordered next. To understand Hitler's reaction in 1944, you must go back to 1940, to the triumphant days after France fell in just 6 weeks. When Hitler walked through Paris for the first and only time, he ordered the visit to take place at dawn, so the city would appear still, fragile, almost magical. He stood before the Eiffel Tower and said quietly, "Paris must never look upon a day when the German flag does not fly above it." To Hitler, Paris was not just another city. It was a symbol, the beating cultural heart of Europe, a trophy of his early victories, and proof that the Third Reich was unstoppable. Losing Paris, in his mind, was unthinkable. From 1940 onward, he declared, "If Germany cannot have Paris, no one shall." This mindset would become crucial in 1944, when defeat approached. As the Allies broke out of Normandy after D-Day, reports began reaching Berlin that resistance groups were preparing to rise. American armored divisions were closing in. The Seine River was nearly within their reach. Hitler brushed the warnings aside. His generals urged him to withdraw, to avoid a massive encirclement, but Hitler refused. "Paris is to be held," he commanded. Not one step back. To him, Paris was not a military asset. It was a symbol of personal pride. And symbols, in Hitler's worldview, were worth more than logic, more than strategy, more than the lives of the men stationed there. By mid-August 1944, the situation in Paris had reached a boiling point. The French resistance began a massive uprising. Police stations were seized. Barricades went up in the streets. German supply lines were cut. On August 20th, Hitler received his first detailed report. General Alfred Jodl read it aloud in the Wolf's Lair. Hitler listened in silence at first. Then he slammed his fist on the table so hard the glasses rattled. "Hitler," recreated, "Paris in revolt? Impossible. I forbade this." Keitel tried to calm him. Jodl attempted to explain. Neither succeeded. Hitler snapped, "Tell the commander in Paris, restore order or be shot." He issued one of the most infamous orders of the war. Paris was to be defended to the last man. But there was a darker command as well. According to multiple accounts from inside the Wolf's Lair, Hitler growled, "If Paris is to fall, it must not fall living. Burn it. Flood it. Reduce it to rubble." He remembered how Napoleon had lost Moscow. He vowed it would not happen to him. He wanted Paris destroyed before it could be liberated. Bridges, rail stations, museums, even the Eiffel Tower. Everything was listed for demolition. But while Hitler raged in East Prussia, something he could not imagine was happening inside Paris. German General Dietrich von Choltitz, the man Hitler appointed to destroy the city, was refusing to carry out the order. He looked at the churches, the museums, the monuments, the civilians, and he silently decided Paris would not burn. On August 24, 1944, the first Allied tanks, the Free French 2nd Armored Division, breached the outskirts of Paris. By dawn the next day, American troops followed. The liberation of Paris had begun. As French soldiers marched toward the city center, church bells rang for the first time in years. Civilians poured into the streets, waving flags they had hidden since 1940. Gunfire echoed around them, but the joy drowned out the danger. By afternoon, the German garrison collapsed. Von Choltitz surrendered, offering no resistance. And at 3:30 p.m. on August 25th, General Charles de Gaulle walked into the city, declaring Paris liberated. But while Paris erupted in celebration, the Wolf's Lair plunged into absolute silence. A phone call was placed from Paris to Berlin. A single message was sent: "Paris has fallen." It reached Hitler in minutes. Those in the bunker watched as he read it. His hands shook, his face went pale. For a moment, he said nothing, which frightened his staff more than his rages. Then, slowly, he looked up. Multiple eyewitnesses described the same scene. When Hitler finally spoke, his voice was low at first, almost a whisper. Hitler recreated. So, Paris is lost. General Keitel tried to explain that the garrison was outnumbered. General Jodl tried to assure him the war was not over. But Hitler interrupted them both. His voice rose, his anger erupted. Hitler, Choltitz has betrayed me. Paris should have been destroyed. Why does it still stand? They promised me they would hold the city. They promised. He paced the room, gripping the table, shaking with rage. Then came the words his generals would remember for the rest of their lives. If Paris is free, Germany is finished. To Hitler, losing Paris meant losing the war. The illusion of his invincibility had shattered. Jodl tried to argue that Paris was not strategically vital. Hitler screamed back, Paris is everything, everything. His staff remained frozen, afraid to speak. Hitler then turned to Choltitz, shouting at no one in particular. He was ordered to destroy it, to burn it, to drown it. How dared he surrender it intact? Then he delivered his final verdict. This is the greatest failure of the German army since the beginning of the war. The room fell silent. That was the moment Hitler realized the tide of history had turned irreversibly. Hitler demanded immediate countermeasures. He ordered a massive counteroffensive to retake Paris, a fantasy that his generals knew was impossible. They had no troops, no fuel, no air power, no hope, but Hitler refused to hear it. Hitler recreated. Paris must be taken back. I don't care how. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. Not one believed it could be done. Then Hitler issued another order. Von Choltitz was to be shot. But the Allies already had him. As reports confirmed that Paris remained intact, the bridges still standing, the monuments untouched, Hitler's anger deepened. He muttered, he disobeyed me, he spared the French. He betrayed the Reich. But privately, some generals breathed a sigh of relief. They had feared the order to destroy Paris. They knew Hitler meant it. And they knew that if Choltitz had obeyed him, Europe would have lost one of its greatest cities. News of Paris's liberation spread across the globe within hours. In London, Churchill smiled quietly. He told his aides, "We have restored the heart of France." In the United States, crowds filled Times Square. President Roosevelt declared Paris free again. But in Berlin, the mood was fatalistic. German civilians whispered that the war was now hopeless. Propaganda officers struggled to spin the defeat. Even some Nazi officials admitted privately, if Paris is gone, it is only a matter of time before Berlin is next. The liberation of Paris did more than free a city, it shattered the psychological backbone of Nazi Germany. For Hitler, who had once walked Paris in triumph, to lose it was a personal humiliation. For the Allies, it was proof that liberation was not just possible, but inevitable. In the final months of the war, when Hitler retreated into his bunker beneath Berlin, he spoke of Paris only twice. Both times, witnesses reported a tone of bitterness. In one meeting, he said, "I should have destroyed Paris when I had the chance." In another, "The French will celebrate my defeat there." He was right. On May 8, 1945, crowds in Paris danced in the streets, waving flags, singing, embracing soldiers. The city he wanted reduced to ashes was alive, vibrant, free. And Hitler's vision of a 1,000-year Reichsstadt lasted barely 12. What Hitler said on the day Paris was liberated revealed his deepest fear, not just of losing a city, but of losing the war, losing control, losing the myth of his own invincibility. Paris was the first symbol of Nazi triumph in the West. Its liberation became the beginning of Nazi collapse. Hitler believed Paris defined his glory. History proved it defined his downfall. The city he wanted to burn became the city that survived him. And on that August day in 1944, as Parisians filled their streets with joy, as Allied troops marched under bright skies, as church bells rang across the Seine, Hitler received the one message he could never accept. Paris was free. And with it, the end of his empire had begun.